Hello and welcome to the 2018 Bible Bike Tests. I'm John Weber. I'm here with Will Ritchie and Ryan Cleek, and we're talking about the Norco Range 29. It's a new bike from Norco this year, and it's a bit of a monster.
Yeah.
I think, I rode the Site 29, which was their shorter travel bike, and it did everything so well. I think I should have known that this was going to be a little bit more of a one-trick pony.
Yeah, it seems like they really catered this with the wheelbase and the 160 fork and the 150 rear wheel travel to really just monster truck through gnarly terrain.
Yeah, it's a carbon frame, but it's a beefy build. Mm-hmm. Like I picked this thing up and immediately could tell that it had some heft to it.
It's got a really burly wheel set. It also has some E13 tires that are reinforced as well. Really feels like they must have a 2-ply sidewall on them because their tanks really sticky rubber. So it's definitely a lot of bike to get moving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the way it's spec'd, it really speaks to kind of how Norco thinks this bike is, designed where it would really excel. They've got burly wheels, burly tires. It's got the long travel for a 29er, and that kind of tells you what they think it's for.
I felt that heft on the climbs. When you try and get out of the seat and really crank on this bike, there's definitely some bob, and it doesn't like surge ahead enthusiastically like the High Tower LT, for example.
I agree. You jump on the pedals for quick acceleration. You do feel a little bit of wallowing, and you feel the weight in the wheel set. I think this bike was around 32 pounds, if I recall. So that's a lot of rotational weight in those wheels, and but you can employ the pedal mode lever on the shock, and that does improve the efficiency a bit on smooth terrain, I noticed.
It's definitely a bike where you want to be seated, kind of settle into your climb. Mm-hmm. You can make work of the climb, put good use to the Eagle, big range to it, no pun intended, but continue climbing upward.
Yeah, I agree. It was definitely a seated climber for me, for sure. Once you got to the top, though, this thing, usually we say gravity took over, but I think this time we can say the range took over.
Yeah.
Like, this thing just pounded through descents with authority.
Especially faster descents, felt super planted, really was not shaken from kind of continuing forward. Whether or not you wanted to stay on it, it wanted to go forward. It wanted to go quickly.
It's a rather long wheelbase on this bike, and at 6 inches of travel, it's a lot of bike, and it's a large. However, I'm on the short range of a large frame that would fit somebody, and I would probably end up going with that same bike if I was going to purchase one. And I had a hell of a lot of fun riding it, though, despite kind of its heft and planted feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it corners pretty intuitively. It's not like the Carbine, for example, which we found really didn't handle well in tight corners. Like, it can still get around, and it's a lot of bikes. So it's not the most playful one around, but for a rider who just wants to like pick a line and mock through stuff. Yeah. It's a good choice. It's like a stout, burly feeling frame and build on this
It's
thing.
also really confident in steeper stuff. Feels like it has a slacker head tube angle than it actually does. There's kind of no way to find the limit of this bike.
Yeah, I mean, for an aggressive rider who is looking for a super capable kind of all mountain bike, but also has a bike park pass and wants to pound out laps in that on the weekends. This has a burly wheel set, comes with tires that are fine for that type of terrain and that type of riding, so that's a good option for that type of rider.
It definitely feels very close to kind of downhill bike for capability. Likes the speed. It's a longer bike. It's incredibly stable. Kind of sits well in its suspension. It doesn't really bog through it or bottom out. It's willing to take it.
And for the rider that wants maybe a little bit lighter build, there is a $7,100 model, slightly above this $5,400 model.
And somebody could always go ahead, do a little bit lighter tires, still burly tires. They just don't have to be quite so tough. A little bit lighter wheel set, maybe a lighter crank, and you'd have a few rotational pieces that might make it feel a little snappier for climbing.
Norco Range is not going to be a bike for every rider on every day. That would be closer to Norco's Site. But for the rider who really just wants to get to the downhills and don't really care how long it takes to get up, it's a great option. Be sure to subscribe to Bike Magazine on YouTube so you don't miss out on any of our other Bible videos.